Okay, so today we are going to be talking about adding and subtracting decimal numbers to go along with the Common Core Standard 5 NBT 7, which is to add, subtract, multiply, and divide decimals to the hundredths. Today we're just taking a look at adding and subtracting those. To review a little bit, when we have an addition problem, the parts of the problem, we have an addend plus another addend is equal to the sum. And remember that the commutative property of addition does apply. We know that 13 plus 8 is the same thing as 8 plus 13. In subtraction problems, we have the minuend, which is the first number. We subtract the subtrahend, or the second number, to end up with our difference. And again, we know that the commutative property does not apply in subtraction, because we do know that 13 minus 8 is definitely not the same thing as 8 minus 13. So again, when we have our addend plus addend is sum, and the minuend, take away the subtrahend, would be the difference. See, the minuend always has to go on top. Okay, so also when we're adding or subtracting whole numbers, let's go back a little bit. We remember that we always have to line up the numbers by their place values, starting with the ones place, and then we work from left to right. If you take a look at the two worked out examples for the addition problem, one of these is worked out correctly and the other one is not. If we take a look at the one on the left, this one is not lined up properly. The 7 here is in the ones place, should be underneath the 4. That one is not correct. However, if we look at the one on the right, the place values are lined up properly. When we add 7 and 4, we get 11, carry that 1. That's going to be a total of 18 when we add the 1 plus 8 plus 9. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus another 4 is 8. And then 1 carries down. So this one would be the correct way. Again, if we look at our subtracting with whole numbers examples, we have two different setups. Again, the one on the left is incorrect. The problem that they've made with this example is that they put the subtrahend on top, the second number on top, which is not allowed. Okay? The minuend, the first number, always has to go on the top. This one, not possible. You'd end up with a negative answer if you tried to take 2048 away from 873. However, with this one, you can see they've done all the borrowing correctly. So remember, when you are lining these up, especially with subtraction, the minuend has to go on the top. Okay, the same is going to be true when we're adding or subtracting decimals. We always start by lining up the place values. Using a place value chart, we can help keep the numbers organized. Okay, so if we take a look at this example, 42 and 8/10, and we're going to add 172 and 19/100. If we look at this place value chart, so in this case, they use the commutative property. They put the larger number on top because it's addition. That's okay to do that. The 1 is under the hundreds place, the 7 is under the tens place, the 2 is under the ones, the 1 is under the tenths, and the 9 is in the hundredths place. When they lined up, or when they put the 42 and 8/10, the 4 is in your tens place. That goes under the 7. The 1 place should be filled with the 2. And the 8 goes in the tenths place. Okay, it's after the decimal. So what do you notice about how this problem was set up? Well, you might notice that there's not an even number of digits here. There's nothing under this 9. That might look a little foreign to you, but that's okay. We have a solution to that. It's called annexing or adding a 0. Okay? When we add a 0 to the end of a decimal place value, it does not change its value. It just changed the way the number looks. This number would be read as 42 and 80/100, but it's the same value as 42 and 8/10. Think about it with dollars and cents. If I had $42.08, the tenths place would be the dimes. That's the same as 80 pennies. So it really doesn't change the value, just the way it looks. Now that you have a 0 there, you have all the same numbers and all the same place values. Now you're just going to add like you would normally do. 9 plus 0, 9. 1 plus 8 is 9. 2 plus 2 is 4. That would be 11. Carry your 1, and then you get a 2. Now, the only thing you have to worry about now is what happens with that decimal point. Well, if we notice, our decimals here are all lined up in a straight line. So when we put it on our answer, it's going to be a continuation of that straight line. That's going to work for addition and subtraction. So let's take a look at this example with subtraction. Okay? If we take a look at our first number, the minuend, 684 and 7/10. 684 and 7/10. We're going to take away 61 and 58/100. The 6 is in the tens place. That's a 61. The 5 is in the tenths, and the 8 goes in the hundredths. Again, what's the first thing that you notice about this problem? Well, in this case, we have a missing digit here in the hundredths place. We can't take 8 away from nothing. There's got to be something there. So again, we're going to annex or add a 0. It does not again change the value, but it does allow us to complete our subtraction. Because now that we have a 0 here, we know, oh, wait, I have to borrow. So I'm going to borrow from the 7, make that a 6. The 0 now becomes a 10. 10 take away 8 is 2. 6 take away 5 is 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. 8 minus 6 is 2. And 6 take away nothing is 6. Again, with our example, if you take a look, our decimal points are completely lined up here. And so where does our decimal go on our answer? It's going to go straight down. So our answer to this problem would be 623 and 12/100. Again, make sure you're copying these examples into your notes, and we're going to take a look and fill out your guided notes a little bit later together. Okay. So now let's take a look at some problems that involve a decimal and a whole number. All right. So this part can be a little bit tricky if you're not sure what to do at first. But if you look at the way that this example was set up, we have 31 and 2/10. And we're going to add the number 84. Well, again, if we use a place value chart, it really helps us make sure that we have our place values lined up properly. All right, so the 31 and 2/10, so 3 in the tens place, 1 in the ones place, 2 in the tenths place. Now the 84. This one can be a little bit tricky if you're not sure where to put your decimal. Well, if we look at the number 84, that means we have 8 tens and 4 ones. Well, where would the decimal go? Well, it would go at the end behind the 4. And again, if we think about money that way, it kind of does make sense. If I say I have $84, I don't necessarily need to write 0.00, but I could, and it doesn't change the value. So again, if we notice here, we have an empty place value. So we're going to add a 0 or annex a 0 to make them all equal. And then we just simply add 2 and 0, 1 and 4, 3 and 8 make 11, so I carry the 1. And again, my decimal drops straight down. My answer would be 115 and 2/10. And if you think about it, if you estimate, well, 84 plus 31 is 115. Right? So I know my answer should be around 115. Now, if the subtraction example, this is the one where if students make mistakes, this is the one that they typically make mistakes on. And the problem is that they're looking at the problem and they're seeing that this number has 4 digits and they automatically assume it must be bigger than this number, the 77, which only has 2 digits, and then they want to put that one on top. That's not how it works. The minuend is the first number that always goes on top. Okay, so 77 means I have a 7 in the tens place and a 7 in the ones place. 23 and 18/100. 20 means 2 in the tens place, 3 is a 1 in the ones place, there's a 3, a 1 in the tenths place, and an 8 in the hundredths place. Again, I've got to annex some zeros so that I have something to subtract from. Now here when I go to borrow from this 0, there's nothing there, so I've got to go all the way over here, make that 7 a 6. This 0 then becomes a 10 initially, but when I borrow from that, it's going to end up being a 9, and this 0 now becomes a 10. Okay? Now 10 take away 8 is 2, 9 take away 1 is 8, 6 take away 3 is 3, and 5 is what you get when you take 7 minus 2. So my answer would be 53 and 82 hundredths. And again, if you use some estimation and just look at the whole number part, 77, that would be around 80. 23 is going to be around 20. 80 take away 20 is 60. And my answer is definitely close to 60. Okay, so now let's take a look at your guided notes, and we're going to see how well you did on filling these out. So the first thing that we do when we are going to add or subtract decimal numbers is we have to line up the numbers using, now we could use a place value chart, but we don't always have to use a chart. We could just use the decimal points. If you line up the numbers by their decimal points, that ensures that you align the place values correctly. The key thing here to remember, big bold letters here, is that the decimal point in any whole number is always at the end. Okay? The second step is to annex or add zeros as placeholders so that there are the same number of digits behind the decimal point in both numbers. After we annex the zeros, we have our problem lined up. We're just going to add or subtract the numbers as if they were regular old whole numbers. There's nothing different. And then what we have to do to figure out where does our decimal go, we bring the decimal point straight down in your answer. So hopefully between these examples and these guided notes, we have shown a little bit of how to add and subtract some decimals. We are definitely going to do some independent practice here in a little bit. So go ahead and make sure you have everything filled out and the examples copied down.